Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today we are joined by two of Bachelor Nation's fan favorite personalities and newest couple, Justin Glaze and Susie Evans. Justin rose to popularity during his time on Katie Thurston's season of The Bachelorette, where he finished as runner-up before going on season 8 of Bachelor in Paradise that next year. In Susie's case, she gained recognition on Clayton's season of The Bachelor, where she walked away as the winner. I love how we write winner. First place, you got the gold medal, but eventually ended things with Clayton after the show aired. However, this was not Susie's first time in the spotlight, having been previously recognized as Miss Virginia USA in 2020 and Miss Virginia Teen USA in 2011. Not only do these two have similar Bachelor Nation paths, they both also have a love for arts, which has played a huge part of their careers. Justin, an accomplished painter, and Susie, an accomplished photographer and videographer. Each of them have the ability to utilize their platform to create opportunities to share their passion for the arts within the worlds that they currently are working in. Today, we are going to talk all things, a new relationship. So, especially with my new book coming out, Talk Money to Me, Love and Money is a big topic, what their lives as creators and artists are like, and maybe, we talk a little bit more about what's next for these two. Justin and Susie, thank you so much for being on Trading Secrets.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That love is in the air here. That is a beautiful
Love is
thing.
in the air.
Wait, we're gonna get into all this stuff like your careers and stuff before the show, but I gotta ask, where did you guys actually meet? Like, what was the first meeting you guys had?
Funny you should ask.
I was hired as a videographer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Justin hired me.
Yeah.
Wait, so this comes back to business.
It's business, baby.
It was an immediate HR issue. So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I was in Baltimore at the time. Susie was still in Virginia,
Okay.
and I was doing an ad for Target. And we work under we have one of the same agencies. And so I was talking to one of my agents, and I was like, hey, I really need a videographer for this. Like, nobody in the DMV is available. Like, what do I do? And she was like, oh, well, Susie, she's so sweet. She's a videographer. And I was like, oh, I've seen her work. She's super talented. I was like, I've never spoken to her, though. We follow each other, but like, I don't want to slide in her DMs and ask her if she can help me like record this. She was like, no, trust me. She's so nice. Just do it. I was like, okay. So I spent way too long drafting up this message. I'm like, oh my God. So I finally send it, and then she came back and, as advertised, was so nice and was like, oh my God, I'll come to you. I'm like, no, I will drive to Virginia or DC, whatever makes sense. And she was like, no, don't worry about it. I have to be in DC anyway. So long story short, we met. I was like, well, if you're coming to Baltimore, let me at least get you a hotel or something, so you don't have to drive back.
Yeah.
So we met in Baltimore at Target.
Yeah.
That is incredible. You hired your now girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
That is absolutely.
For
I've never thought about it in those kinds of
I'm totally messing. But let me ask you this: between us, as a single guy, should know it. When you reached out, was there maybe I'll hire her? Perfect.
I mean, I would not have put that much thought into the initial message if I was just whatever. She'll say yes. I'm like, part of me wants to meet her on a personal note as well, and it's an added bonus, to work together. But I definitely was crushing a little bit, so I put some extra thought into that, into that message.
Interesting. That's just very on brand for you to put so much thought behind a message, because even hearing that, I'm like, oh, I never knew that you thought that much, but I know you now and I know how you are, and I'm like, I probably read the message and was like, yeah, sure.
You're like, oh, another business opportunity.
So yeah, literally. I'm like, can I post a picture together?
Growing my portfolio.
Yeah, I'm just gonna grow my portfolio. Oh, I'm gonna move into commercials.
That's the entrepreneur we want on this podcast. I gotta at least ask this after it. I know you guys were friend zoned for a while, working through that, but was there a little bit of spark for both of you two after the end of this business transition?
Yeah, I think we had different experiences, because I definitely thought Justin was cute when I saw him on the show. And it's so funny, all my friends wanted me to date you in the long run. Even when we watched Paradise back, they're like, oh my God, but Justin or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I feel like my friends knew they liked your vibe, and I wasn't as into the show as they were. But I think after that, I thought he was cute going into it. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, the vibes were good. We talked on the phone a few times and stuff like that, but we were actually contemplating doing a short-term lease in LA with me, Justin, and Andrew. And we were just kind of like, we even said, we just got to like be professional. And we were just very professional in that whole situation. We ended up not rooming together. And then we just became friends. We all moved to LA around the same time and became friends.
It's funny. We actually kind of manifested at the end of the night. We, after we filmed my ad, and then we filmed a segment for Susie's YouTube channel, and then we had dinner, and I dropped her back off at the hotel. And when we were in my car, we were just like, you know what? Like, we're both so creative. We were talking about what we want, like what our next steps were going to be in life. And we both had this, desire to move. And we're like, you know what? We're going to make it happen. We're both going to move to LA, and we're going to do this.
Wow.
And then it's just like crazy. We look back, we're like, we really talked about this in my car the first night we met. Like, we're going to move to LA and do it. And that's exactly what we did. So it's crazy.
That is amazing. I think about, like, I always thought coming into The Bachelor, I looked at life like silos. It's like my personal life, financial life, professional life, social life, and they cannot intertwine. For some reason, of all things, it was The Bachelor that made me realize those walls are a fucking joke. Like, all those things are the foundation of our life. And it's pretty interesting how, like, professional pursuits tie into personal success. And look where you guys are today. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So congratulations to you guys. Thank you for sharing that. Let's get back to business a little bit. So, Justin, your approach to be on Katie Thurston's season. At the time you're approached, what were you doing career-wise?
I was working in finance, actually. So I was working in institutional investment sales. And yeah, the whole painting thing has always just kind of been a hobby. Sure. And then I'd say probably around college or so is when I started monetizing off of it and would be commissioned for projects. But yeah, before I was going on Katie's season, I was working in finance.
Was that at T. Rowe Price? Yeah. Okay, so you're working there. You get up the opportunity to go on ABC The Bachelor. What do they say to you when you say you're going to leave for a reality show?
Oh, man. So about halfway through the interview process, when it started getting pretty serious, you do the drug tests and psychological, all that stuff, right? That stuff. They were like, you should start talking to your employer. And I was like, hey guys, just a heads up, I don't think this is going to fly with them. Like, no way I can take 2 months potentially off of work. I had a whole territory I was covering. I was like, there's no way. So I was already kind of preparing for the worst in my head, but they were like, just ask anyway. I was like, okay. So I go to my boss, and to my surprise, he was like, dude, that's sick. You have to. I was like, what? He was like, no, I'll talk to my boss's boss. So he went all the way up the chain of command, HR, risk, compliance. Everyone was on board. Like, do it. We'll cover the time off. Wow. You've got our support. And I was like, okay, is there anything I can get in writing that stipulates, grounds for whatever. And they were like, this is new to us. We've never had anybody from the firm go on TV, but, it's kind of at your risk. And I was like, I trust myself not to make a fool out of myself or do anything crazy. So long story short, they all signed off and we're in full support of it. Things look differently post-show, but we can get into that.
Let's just quickly touch on it, though. You get off the show. The show airs. Yeah. You go back to work?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then it's because I remember this being on The Bachelorette. It's a pretty quick turnaround time. Like, I remember it was 3 weeks after I got off. They asked me to go on Paradise. Same situation. I'm working for a bank, and they had said you can go on The Bachelorette. When I asked them about Paradise, they're like, you'll be fired if you go. Did you get put in a predicament like that when you tried to go right back on reality TV?
So mine was a little bit different. I didn't want to go on Paradise right after. Yeah. One, because it was literally 2-3 weeks turnaround.
Yeah, it's too much.
Katie season hadn't even aired before we were going to film Paradise. Right. So I was like, dude, I'm exhausted from this experience. I was like, I just don't have it in me to reintroduce myself to these women. I don't have the energy to, I will be a shell of myself. Yeah. And I was like, I want to go back to work, just get back to some sense of normalcy. Yeah. But as persistent as those producers are, they're like, ask. And I'm like, okay. So I went to my boss and he was like, I get it. He was like, I'm cool with it, but let me ask, the head of our department. And she basically came back and was like, we can't/won't tell you no, but and I was like, let me read between these lines. Yeah. So ultimately I was like, well, I don't even want to do this anyway. So this is just the added, nudge to not do it. So I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And then after that conversation, my boss was like, yeah, she was kind of testing to see what you would do and, where your priorities were at this time. So I was like, all right, cool.
So you passed on it? Yeah. Okay. But then you went back?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And when you went back, were you still working for T. Rowe?
No.
Okay. Yeah. All right. At what point did you leave T. Rowe?
Oh, man. So that was probably February of 22.
Okay.
2022.
If you're comfortable, can you give people an idea a job like that, T-Row, around how much can you make?
Oh, sure. Like doing what I was doing,
Yeah.
you can make anywhere between I'd say 130 to 400,
Just depends on the success.
depending
of like what
on
you're doing.
yeah.
Okay, and people listening back home, would you recommend that career track? Like if someone's like, oh, that's interesting.
I would. You gotta hustle,
Yeah.
and there's a lot to it. You not only have to have obviously the investment acumen, but you also have to just have a motor.
Yeah.
And you're on the road a lot potentially, and it's just like, when we have events, it's like you kind of got to put on the fake smile sometimes and just like kiss babies and however the saying goes. But it's a lot of that as well. So it's like half business finance, having meetings with advisors, but also a lot of business entertainment. So being in rooms where you're networking and giving presentations, and it can be very draining. So it can be a taxing job, but it can be very lucrative.
Okay,
As well.
I love it. We're going to come back to your career track. We're paused now. You go to Bachelorette, you get off, you pass on Paradise. When you passed on Paradise, did they offer you any certain amount of money that made you like potentially think about it, or no? We've
Honestly,
had like a million people talk about Paradise. Like
yeah.
$400 per day, guarantee at like $25K. Like
Yeah.
it was just like the basic offer.
There was really no amount of money. Well, I mean, there's definitely an amount of money that could have
Yeah.
made. But for what they offer,
Yeah.
like you said, they either will do a guarantee, like a daily rate, and we can up your daily rate, or
Yeah,
they'll do
yeah.
a set amount, whatever. With the range that they were going to give me, I was like, I'm good.
Okay, got it. So you're on Katie Thurston's season. Now, Clayton was on Katie's season, correct?
No, Clayton was on
Michelle's
Michelle's season.
season.
Michelle's
back-to-back,
season,
yeah.
that's right. So then Clayton goes on Michelle's season. That's right. That was the adjustment period where they had the back-to-back.
Yeah.
Clayton becomes the Bachelor. You go on Clayton's season. What were you doing professionally before?
So for the 2 years prior, I was in pharmaceutical marketing as a program manager.
Oh, wow.
And then the year I went on The Bachelor, I quit my job officially to do videography full time, which meant also waitressing at 2 restaurants.
Got it. Because that's like a tough grind,
It's tough,
right?
Yeah.
So videography full time for anyone back home, like what exactly does that mean at this time?
At that time, it was weddings. It was actually family portraits. It was engagement sessions. It was like photography, videography, just kind of like building a portfolio. I started in 2019 doing photography, videography, and weddings, but I wasn't making a living or any kind of like substantial income doing that. So in 2020, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the leap and leave this marketing agency, which was the worst year to take a leap of faith and start a business where you have to be around people.
Outside.
Yeah. So
tough.
I went right back to the marketing agency, and I left on great terms. I've always like maintained positive relationships with them. Cause I literally left the week COVID was announced, like a pandemic.
Oh my God. It's awful.
It
timing.
was awful. It was like one of my, I mean, it felt like such a failure at the time. Obviously there's not much you can do. It was COVID, but I just felt dumb. I was like, well, that was, very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Then, so I worked in marketing until I left again in 2021. And I thought I would be okay, to be honest. I was like, okay, I think I can like make this work. I had roommates. I was living in Virginia Beach. But I remember being at a point where I was like, I actually don't know that I'm going to be able to pay my bills. And I was 27. And I say this with like so much respect for anyone from any walk of life, no matter what job you do. But at 27, like leaving my marketing job and walking into like a local bar and being like, I need a job, it was very humbling after having like a great career at Disney for over 2 years and then pharmaceutical marketing for 2.5 years. Like I felt like I was like on a good avenue, and then it's like, oh wow, I'm like needing a second waitress job to make ends meet. So I was very much like figuring things out and kind of struggling, to be honest, to make ends meet as a videographer, photographer.
Well, I also think about your trajectory, right? Miss Virginia Teen USA 2011, Miss Virginia 2019 second runner-up, Miss Virginia winner. Then, like you said, you already alluded to it, you're performing in Tokyo at a Disneyland restaurant. Like you have this foundation to do these like massive things in entertainment. At this point, when you're stepping into a bar at 27 to get are you met with like, I failed? Like, are you feeling that at all?
Absolutely. I felt like that. I mean, I remember being like, it definitely felt like, I don't know how to describe it because it's not embarrassing. I don't think I've ever been embarrassed of any walk of life because I've always had this mentality of like, I always joke and say this, but I'm like, oh, it'll be in my book someday. I've always said that from the time I was like 17, 18 years old. When something really hard happened, if I failed really hard, really publicly, if just something horrible happened to me, I would, even if I was in tears, I would like be like, it's gonna be in my book. Like, it's a part of the story. And I always had that mentality, but it didn't take away the pain or like that kind of embarrassment in that moment where I'm like, damn, I'm already working at the Hilton down the road in that restaurant. I'm trying to make videography, photography work. I have roommates. I have accomplished all these things, and I'm going into another restaurant to be like, I need a job, going into the busy season of like, you know, the summer in Virginia Beach. I'm like, I need to find something else to make ends meet. So there definitely was some kind of like feeling inside me where it's like, literally I was on the Miss USA stage last year, like performing, competing, networking, and now I'm serving at a local bar, which it definitely felt, it was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow, but I'm always like, I've been a high risk taker, I think, my whole life, calculated risks. And I think I'm always, at the end of the day, like a firm believer that I'm going to be able to make things happen for myself. Like, I have a hard work ethic. I've never not been able to make money. Like, I know, I just believe in myself. And I think that at the end of the day, I would rather like risk it for the biscuit and make something big out of my life and enjoy my life than like stay in pharmaceutical marketing where I was unhappy and didn't have good work-life balance.
Okay, give us an idea of pharmaceutical marketing and bartending. Of like, how much around can you make?
At the same time?
Yeah, just like in pharmaceutical marketing in general, what is a high level, what do you get paid annually? And then from a bartending perspective, like what could you pull a night when you were working at the local bar?
Okay, so going from pharmaceutical marketing, I would say that specific job, I think you can make a lot more money, but that specific job, I think the pay range would be about like 60 to 80 in my department. Like if I worked my way up, I think the most I could make would be like 80. So like there wasn't longevity for me there to make like over $100,000 at that particular company.
Sure.
And then, like bartending, serving, I feel like that's where it's tricky because, you know, they don't take the taxes out.
IRS.
So it's hard to say exactly how much you could make in a year, but
cash business.
It's a lot of cash money. But I feel like you could make, in the peak summer season in Virginia Beach, you could make $800 in one night.
Damn.
You can make money.
Good.
You can make money.
Yeah.
And that's in Virginia Beach. I think like LA and New York, I'm like, you can make so much money. That's not a normal night, but that's like the top. But I would say the lower end is like $150 a night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So is it fair to say, both you two, when you decide to go on the show, financially you're doing okay. You guys are fine. It's not like you're in a dire situation or anything. Everything financially is going fine.
Yeah. Okay.
The show calls you. To you, is this like, okay, I was Miss, Virginia, I was on Miss USA, and I'm now bartending, and now ABC's knocking on my door. Like career professional wise, did you see this also as another opportunity to get back to where you thought your life was headed?
So interestingly, the Bachelorette contacted me for the previous 4 years.
What?
Yeah.
Stop it.
So for 4 years in a row, I had been in communication with them. So
Justin, was that the same for you?
No.
The same. You and I both, brother.
So it pretty much started in 2018, I think. So maybe it was 3 years. But I was like open-minded to it. I certainly had seen people go before me and be like, oh, this could be like an interesting avenue and could certainly change your life. But I also thought it was really high risk.
Is that why you said no?
The first time the only time I said no, the two of the times I like made it some part of the process and then like, no communication, whatever. One time I said no because I wanted to be Miss USA. I was like, I'm going for my dream. Like I've had this dream since I was a kid. And so I was like, I can't really do both in the same year. So I chose to go for Miss USA.
I feel like that's where Bachelor casting directors just hang out. They just go to the pageants.
No, it's so true.
It's unbelievable.
They run the pageant circuit.
So the fourth time you say yes. Then.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you do that, though, you have to now put your business on hold and
Mm-hmm.
your full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Were there any issues with you potentially losing your job by going on the show?
No, everybody was supportive. So I wasn't in pharmaceutical marketing going on to the show. I was just doing the video, photography, and serving at that time.
Okay.
I had left and been like, okay, I'm going to pursue
This is gonna be
this.
your own. Okay.
But I did have to refund a wedding, which was like the last of my money.
Interesting.
I had enough money. Like I literally, like it was, I mean, weddings are like, at the time I was doing them pretty cheap, but it's like $2,500. And for me,
Yeah.
I was like, that's like everything I have to be able to make it 2 months if I make it all the way. Like
Yeah.
that felt to me like a big deal in the moment as somebody trying to build their business. I was like,
Was there a predicament that the wedding you could have been back by the wedding and you didn't know what to do? Or were you for sure going to be filming?
I think I was for sure. It was at the beginning.
Okay.
So, or
Okay, so you knew you'd be gone.
assuming, yeah.
So you refund the wedding, you take a shot,
Yeah.
you go on The Bachelor. Okay.
Yeah.
When I'm just curious for both you guys, because you had talked about the psychology thing. When you did the psychology thing, I'll never forget. I had like because I was like kind of nervous. I'm like, what is this process? I had 2 drinks on the plane, and then I was like, I'm just going to go to sleep. And then they put the 600 questions psych test in front of us. Did you guys have that too?
Yeah.
Right? I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we need this filled out in an hour. So I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I was like, I'm going to fall asleep. I had a couple of cocktails. So I ordered like a bunch of beers in the room, and I was like, let's just grip it and rip it. Like, and I did that psych test. That whole thing was barbaric.
Insane.
That was like, you talk about interview processes and stuff in life. Like that was one of the hardest interview
There were like
processes.
some trick questions on there.
I know.
So for me too. And like, did they have somebody? Well, when I did it, they had somebody like watching me take it.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. So I did mine before I, got selected. It was like kind of back to back with like the drug testing and stuff. And I was out there like asking the guy questions. They were like, "Don't talk to him. They're just there to monitor." I probably can't repeat one of the questions. Or maybe I can. I don't know.
Well,
But
you had a monitor.
I had somebody watching.
I did too.
But
You did?
Mm-hmm. On a video camera, right? Mine was virtual.
Yeah, it was virtual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think I can get in trouble for like one of the,
No.
like one of the
think
questions
so.
vividly? It was like it was so tricky because it was like psych exam, right? So it was like, do you like fire? And I'm like, well, they're probably looking to see if I'm an arsonist risk. But I'm like, also, I'm like, I like s'mores and like a cozy. I'm like, so I'm asking the guy, I'm like, hey, in what context? Like, I don't love playing with fire, but like, I like a cozy fire. He was like, just answer the
Just
question.
answer the
I was like, man, you're no
so
fun.
That
I'm
is-
like trying to make him laugh. He's
that
like,
is so-
answer the question.
Then
I'm
you
like,
meet with
okay.
the psychologist. He's like, so, do
Yeah.
you have an issue with fire, Justin?
Just s'mores.
Oh
like
my
s'mores.
God. Unbelievable. All right. So,
So funny.
I got to love it. Well, somehow we all made it through. Not all of us were asked 8 seasons in a row to go, but we make it.
be nice.
We made Justin and I just
Somebody
squeaked.
dropped out. They're like, kid, you're in.
You're in. Yeah, you and I both.
Yeah.
Just squeak them by. Let them in. All right, so we go on the show. All of us actually went pretty far. You get off the show. Talk to me a little bit. Let's start with you, Justin. How did your life change professionally? Like, did you rethink things? I know you went back to work, but you get this lift in social media.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think about just taking that on full time at the point? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah. So initially, no, because I'm just such a realist, and I've always just the way I was brought up. I feel like the world of social media was just, never in the realm of a possibility of being like a primary source of income. Like I just, both my parents, college, full-time jobs, just like very straight, arrow type people. And so I was like, well, that's going to be my trajectory, just like finance career until the day I die. Right. And so, and I like being in corporate, for the most part. So, a lot of people, I'd kind of laugh at people that like quit their jobs before they even went on the show, then, get tossed night one. I'm like, that'll never be me. Like, so I like took pride in going back to work afterwards. And it was challenging because no matter how many people you talk to about how, things could change for you, social media wise, opportunity wise, whatever. Like I was talking to my cousin Marshall about it, who went on Love is Blind. I was trying to prep him, but like, there's nothing like actually experiencing it. And, I was working remotely. So it was 2021. So we were still remote. And I remember just kind of being on my laptop working, but it's like that phone is like calling your name. It's like, let me refresh and like see like who's liking my stuff and like messaging. It was just so new. Yeah. And all the fan accounts are tagging you, talking about you, you're on, looking at all the podcasts that are like recapping, what you did in the previous. It's so hard. It was so hard for me to stay focused on my job. And so let me separate the two. Job wise, it was still good because understandably, all my coworkers wanted to talk about it, and they were like, "Oh my God, I loved you in this." It was kind of weird because I was like, when I'm at work, I just want to be Justin, at work, right?
Yeah, work guy.
But that's unrealistic because people are watching it. They are like, "I work with this guy," so they're messaging me like intraday, and I'm like,
"That's crazy,"
Yeah, the same thing happened to me too,
and even my clients, man, like I would call an advisor, and I'm like about to talk mutual funds. He's like, "Hey, man, my wife loves you." I'm like, "Dude." I'm like, "Hey, but it's good for business." So I'm like, "Let's talk about it." You know what I mean? Sure. So it was good in that regard. But inevitably opportunities came along, and as you know, the finance industry is very highly regulated, and so there were some nuances that I wasn't didn't know I had to navigate, but was totally fine navigating. And what I mean by that is, any outside income I had to report and get brand deals approved. And so this was a brand new process to me, to the firm, and it got complicated pretty quickly.
Yeah. Is that why you ended up leaving?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Was it your departure or no?
Yeah, it was kind of it was a sticky situation. It was sort of
My
like
situation was very sticky too.
Yeah, it was like
finance and Bachelor just don't work
didn't
together.
mix well. And it was interesting, because prior to going on, like I said, I was like, I wasn't too gung ho on doing it, and I had all the support, from my employer to do it. And then once the opportunities started coming in, it was like, whoa. We weren't expecting this.
Same.
And I was like, well, it's primetime ABC, and I did pretty well. I was like, I as much as I'm trying to come back and just be normal Justin, I was like, so long as it's not interfering with my work, I don't see the issue. And, there's stuff that I would, not only brand deals, but I remember a time, Andrew, it got to the point where I was submitting everything, doing my job, getting everything approved, right? And then it felt like they were kind of picking and choosing what they were okay with. Cameo, for instance, right? For those who don't, what Cameo is. People want you to say happy birthday and Merry Christmas, right?
Yep.
And it was like, hey, we thought we asked you to, submit everything you're monetizing. I was like, hey, honest mistake, didn't even think about it. It's Cameo. They're like, well, you need to shut it down. I was like, why is that? Well, we have no control over what you're saying on your Cameo. I was like, I'm not providing any financial advice on Cameo. I can promise you that, And I was like, for what it's worth, you don't have control over what I say on my Instagram story. I don't post anything inappropriate, but, cool, I will oblige. And it just got to, I would get invited on trips, to Belize with this company. And, I got it approved, got the trip approved. And no one sees that I'm waking up 4 hours earlier, cranking out work, on calls, doing everything, right? Still, had one of the top performing territories in the U.S. And, they see, people at work, whatever, would see me post a picture of swimming with turtles, right?
Yeah.
And I'm getting calls. It's like, hey, could you refrain from posting? I'm like, you guys approved this trip. Like, you want me to post behind my laptop, or do you think people want to see me swim with turtles? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm getting my stuff done, but I got to give the people the cool stuff.
Yeah,
I'm in Belize.
Yeah, that's what
and I got it approved.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, I'm like, hey, well, why are people like snooping? He was like, well, people are wondering how much vacation time. I'm like, I'm not on this trip got approved. I'm working remote. I'm like, what's the difference between me working remotely in Belize and someone who wasn't on TV that's in Martha's Vineyard right now?
Right.
There was no answer. It was like, well, the optics, you're in the public eye right now. I was like, I understand that, but it's like, if people want to snoop and watch my stuff and compare and complain, like, there's only so much I can do. And so it became a bigger issue. It was like, everything you do needs to be. So I remember, like, I wasn't trying to be facetious, but like almond butter would show up on my door front from companies. I'm like, hey, just letting you know, this company sent me almond butter. Like, I'm not trying to get in trouble, And, it got to the point, I think one of the tipping points, like Andrew Spencer, he had gotten invited to a USC football game and a Saturday, right? He invited me. We all took a trip out here, went to the game. Monday morning, I get a call with, HR and like, we saw you were on the field at a USC football game, and we thought we asked you to report every perk that you were getting from. I was like, hey, it's getting a little, I'm all. I want to follow the rules, but like, I feel like where's the employee handbook? These are the Justin rules at this point.
Yeah.
Like this is a Saturday. I'm like, and because I never want to like throw anyone under the bus or compare, but I'm like, our department raffles off Ravens tickets every week. Are the winners reporting the winning ticket?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're like, no. I'm like, why am I reporting my friend inviting me to a football game?
Yeah.
On my time.
Yep.
And it got to the point where it's like, hey, listen, we need to have a conversation. You know, if you are going to want to continue to be here, you can't do anything Bachelor related.
Wow, I feel
So,
like
well,
our lives are mirrored.
yeah.
I was in the exact same situation.
Yeah. It was very unfortunate.
Yeah.
I felt more so betrayed than anything. I was
Yeah.
like, you told me to do this.
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
achieving all your results. You're exceeding expectations.
Yeah, I'm like, why
and
can't I
that-
succeed
yeah,
in both?
yeah.
Like, because I wanted to
Yeah.
maintain that career and I wanted to maintain the social aspect. And I, felt like I was doing both
Right.
well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember it was 5:01 p.m. And then I said to myself, okay, now I was allowed to post because they wouldn't let me do anything until 5:01.
Yeah.
And it puts you in that like weird position. There's another funny fact is Derek Peth, if you remember from Bachelor franchise a while ago, he worked for a financial company that the bank I worked for ended up acquiring. And this was after my sticky situation. So I called him and I was like, dude, I got the playbook for you. He goes, oh, I've already been vetted on the playbook. Because like you, they literally created their own rules based on the situation. It's such a bizarre thing
Yeah.
to have to deal with. Were you monetizing at a level, though, you could leave your job at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're making enough money off side hustle with Instagram and stuff that you had the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, when you left in February, did you at all know that Paradise was on the radar?
It was honestly to the hour a bang scenario where I figured they would call me back eventually.
Yeah.
Because they were on me so heavy the previous season. I didn't know when they would start making calls. I knew it would probably start filming in June. But I remember my last day, I'm on the phone with my dad and we were debating whether or not we were going to pursue certain avenues.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know.
I did.
Yeah, exactly. So we were having those conversations and I was literally arrived to a particular office for a meeting and literally as I touched my butt to the seat, I get a call from one of the producers. I'm like, I know what this call is. I stepped out in the hallway and I said, well, maybe it's a sign,
How
and
does that, like, that
it was
shit,
insane.
people that come on this show, this just happens all the time. It's so
Yeah.
weird. Jax Taylor was just here. He said that he had been in model and entertainment for 12 years, broke as a skunk, had nothing left. Dad said, you got to come home. Pack the truck up. As he's packing the truck up, same day, Lisa Vanderpump called him.
Yep.
Like, isn't it so? It's so
insane.
weird how these things happen. They call you, you end up going. Did you get a job in between, or did you just wait till Paradise?
No, so it was, man, I'm telling you that I have been like the corporate world wants me, like, and it's been like that. I'm not gonna call it the corporate, whatever that voice on my shoulder has been. So even when I agreed to Paradise, I was like, well, I'm still gonna be a corporate guy, right? So whether it's securing a job now, but I know it's tricky timing because by the time I get through the hiring process, like I can't really
You have your shirt off on Paradise. You'll
Yeah,
be back
I was
in
like,
the same predicament.
I was like, I'm not gonna put myself in the same situation. So I'm gonna be fully transparent to whoever my future employer is, what I have going on,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. Like they're either going to hire me with that knowledge and knowing it, or not. But I was like, I'm not gonna put myself in the same situation. So February-ish, I actually, when they called, I was like, well, still let me think about it. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
Like, I was kind of seeing somebody, but I wasn't fully dating them. And then they kept calling. And by the time probably March-ish, I was like, okay, I'm down. But I had started looking for other jobs. And so I made it all the way through the interview process. They were cool with me being on the show, all good. They were like, maybe we'll start you, in May. You can leave for the show, come back. Or should we just start you in July? So we were having those conversations. It ultimately didn't work out. So going into Paradise, I was just doing social media stuff.
Okay. Doing
And then,
social media.
yeah, and then I went back to corporate about a couple months after that.
Okay. All right. We're going to get into that,
Yeah.
but you go to Paradise. Now,
Yeah.
we're going back to you, Susie. So
Okay.
I wanted to ask you this. You got rid of that $2,500 deal. You're are you in a position where you're okay financially? Like, do you have a couple bucks, or is it kind of tight?
It was definitely tight.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of people talk, especially we hear from women that prepare for the show, and because they have to buy like all this shit, tons. Did you have to at all go in debt to buy stuff?
No.
Or did you have
Thankfully, I didn't have to go into debt. I had saved a significant amount of money to go to Miss USA. That's a huge
Okay.
financial burden essentially.
Yeah.
And so I think even having gone to Miss USA, I actually had a lot of wardrobe as well. So I had a lot of gowns, dresses, like things that I could wear. Obviously I still had to purchase things. I think I probably spent like $1,500 on clothing, but
you did it good.
Yeah,
I think I spent more than 15.
I know. I mean, Justin does know. I'm like I like a deal. I like a budget.
Yeah.
I'm pretty like fine. I feel like I'm
Financially savvy.
not even that. Maybe
Spending?
frugal. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very generous with people, but frugal with myself and like things
That's
like
great.
that.
Yeah.
And I like to even thrift and stuff like that. Like I feel like or clothing rentals. Like I like all that kind of stuff. But I think it helped coming from pageantry, like having some of it. And I also feel like a few years prior, I had someone say, you have to go into debt to make your dreams happen. And I've so firmly like believed against that. I was like, I don't think anyone should have to go into debt to achieve your dreams. And I would like stand by that. So, I kind of like was like, I'm going to make things work. But I do think that coming from pageants helped with wardrobe.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable that you did that. $1,500. You killed it. You get off the show though. And these paths, they start out in Virginia and Baltimore. And guys, I hope you see, we're slowly bringing these paths together. You get off the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're at this point, you're with Clayton. And I remember we had dinner with you guys at Kane Prime. What was your career strategy after the show once it ended?
So I actually went back to waiting tables because I loved it. And I remember, and I was obviously still videography. I was booked for 22 weddings. So like I had a full like year of weddings, but I served tables literally the second I came back because I didn't have a wedding from the time I came off the show until the finale. It was like March until my next wedding. So I was like, I need to work still. So I was serving at a restaurant. And I remember Clayton being like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you serving tables? And like, they would like play the show as I'm like serving tables. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so they would have the TVs going and it would literally be the Bachelor episodes. And I'd be like, this is so like, I actually thought it was kind of funny, but I've also just always loved like the restaurant industry. Like
those were those $800 nights.
Yeah. That's
I was
those
gonna
are the
say,
big
are you
buck
sure
nights.
this wasn't an appearance?
No, it's like, it's so funny because it was literally like such a locals like chill vibe of a bar. But
Yeah.
I went back to it and I stayed there literally as long as I could, like through part of the summer. And I went to working one day a week because it was like, it was solely for the social aspect. I just loved doing it. I was working Wednesdays only. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm becoming a burden on them because people were calling, is Susie from The Bachelor working tonight?
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, like they're not allowed to release that information. And I just liked doing it. But I was like kind of set after the show. I was like set on like, I want to stay in Virginia Beach. Like I want to be close to my family. I don't think I've ever been like super driven as far as like, I need to have a ton of money, but I have always desired a unique lifestyle. Like I've always been like, I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy what I do for work. Like I've always believed that you can enjoy what you do for work. So I don't think I've ever like chased money. Even coming off the show, it wasn't like, oh, how can I make the most money out of this? It was like, oh, I just want to like enjoy the life that I've like already created here. But I realized coming off the show, like, and even Clayton coming to my home, I was like, oh, it's not the same as it was like the kind of like hustle, like videographer, just kind of, I don't know. The life I had was so different before the show that when we came off and Clayton was there and we were trying to figure things out, I was like, oh, this isn't like the same life I had. And it's not as fulfilling as I thought it would be coming home and like being a local wedding vendor.
Yeah. So were you though, your social media picked up quickly. You had to be making more off social media than you were making in all your other side jobs pretty damn quickly after the show, especially ending up like engaged, right?
Well, we didn't get engaged.
We'll get
but
together
still,
at the end. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I waited to take a brand deal. I think even after being allowed to, I think I waited a month, and it was like a 3-month waiting period already. So it was like I got off the show in November. I didn't take my first brand deal until like July, August of the next year. So I waited.
Patient.
Yeah, I waited a long time. But
First one that came knocking.
I'll do it.
I'm there.
I think there was a part of me that like, this sounds weird, but I didn't want to seem too eager.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I love my life. And I feel like there is such this like stigma when you come off the show of people being like, oh, everyone's there for this and that. And I'm like, honestly, I loved my life. I was like hustling going into the show. Like my lifestyle, like I was working crazy hours. I was like shooting weddings, and every single opportunity I got, I was taking every single opportunity I got. And I really loved my life. I had great friends. Like it was beach living. Like it was such a fun lifestyle at 27 to like leave my corporate job and be like, I'm going to try this. It was like a new adventure.
Yeah.
I loved it. And so I didn't feel the need to like change everything, but it was just different, and it wasn't the same anymore.
Got it. It's not the same anymore. It's different. You finish the show. Doesn't work out with Clayton. You're still on the same professional trajectory, but there's like the whole world is calling for you in Bachelor World to do one of two things: be the Bachelorette or be on Paradise.
Yeah.
It's funny that you almost ended up on the same season of Paradise. Did they ever contact you to actually be the Bachelorette?
They did, last year.
And is that something you pursued, and they went in a different direction?
Yeah, I definitely considered it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would have, if it had been offered to me, I got to the point where I was like, if they give it to me, even the stipulations that I had, I really tried to work on that contract, because I was like, oh, it's just, you're signing away so much. And I'm not sure that it's the same opportunity that it used to be, to be honest. I feel like, a few years ago, it's such a career changer. It's such a life changer that even if I didn't love the experience of being the Bachelorette, I think it would have been worth it for the career. But at that time, I was kind of like, I don't know if it's the same opportunity and if it would be worth it. And I don't think I would like it. And I don't think I would, I don't know. I really did consider it, and I really did try to negotiate the contract and stuff, but ultimately they went in a different direction. So I didn't even have the choice to, but I did consider it, and I was ultimately like, if it's offered, I think I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah. So you're on the fence with it, but they ended up moving in a different direction. Everything you said, I think it's very fair to say, like, the current, if you look at like an equation, like the current value of accepting a lead position, like 2015 to probably 2019, 20 was a lot different than I think now. So I get that. But what about Paradise? Paradise comes your way. You could have met your now boyfriend on Paradise and got paid and had TV time for it. Did you think about it?
I actually, you wouldn't have been on that season. I don't think
they
it would have been the
asked her
next
season
season.
after,
Yeah. Because
it would have been the season.
Well, yeah, because she was
after?
with Clayton while I was
on Paradise.
doing Paradise.
So it was
I
the
got
next
my
season.
timeline screwed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wouldn't have met that.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing you didn't go on.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Did you think about going on?
I did think about it. Okay. I did. I'm like, I really did consider it. And like I said earlier, I love to risk it for the biscuit. Like I love to. I'm like, I'm not afraid in most ways and in most things. I'm not afraid to like risk it or take a chance on myself or take a chance. Like, I don't think I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm not going to get in a fight with anybody on the beach. Like, I'm going to be super laid back and like just try to enjoy it. But I did not think I would be successful in finding love on the beach. And I thought, to be completely honest, I think it would have taken me out of other opportunities that I could find elsewhere. I'm like, you're signing then a contract with ABC that you can't do something for a year. I couldn't do YouTube for a year. And it's not like I'm making a ton of money on YouTube right now, but that's what I'm pursuing.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's like, I thought it was a smarter choice to withhold and be like, I'm not going to find love. Like, I don't think there's anybody that I'm going to meet there that I'm going to fall in love with. And I don't think it's financially worth it. And I don't think it's worth getting into a contract where I can't do a single other thing that I want to pursue this year.
And she knew I was at home.
I was going to say that too. But also, you're right. That's the tough part about the contract. It's not even about the payment. It's about that you would be stuck with everything for so long. Like, you're just handcuffed to what you would do and how you would do it.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. All right. So now we're slowly getting to that iceberg where the two worlds collide. Career-wise, professionally-wise, we know that you hired Susie. At what point did you guys know? Like, at what point did you know that this friendship was going to be a relationship, and then that's going to connect to some career questions?
Actually, I think that I have to give Justin credit. It just was really like gentlemanly the way he approached it. We started to be a little bit more flirty probably leading up to the conversation, and we had a funny night where we were like flirty, and it was like, wait, is this happening? Like, I don't know if you're into this, like I'm into this. And then we went to Justin's house. We Ubered. We had been out. We had had a few drinks. We weren't drunk, but we'd had a few drinks, and we Ubered back to Justin's house, and he like really sat down. We like sat down on his couch, and he was like, I think we should talk about this. Like, I like you, and I think that there could be something more than friendship, but I value you and who you are and our friendship, and like I would never want to do anything to make you uncomfortable. Like, you really just like set it up to be a very like comfortable, respectful situation. Told me how you felt, I told you how I felt, but we both acknowledged we were like super freaked out to like ruin this, to ruin other relationships around us. Like, we don't want to be the couple that like can't be invited to hang out with the friend group because, you know, we were just like so nervous of messing anything that was already so good up. And yeah, then we decided to kiss
after the respectful approach.
Yeah.
And that was that. But you already talked a little bit about manifesting the career track and living track to LA. I mean, talk to me a little bit about when was the decision made to come to LA, and you thought about possibly even being roommates and things like that. Like, talk to me about that. And career wise, what was the plan? And right now you work for Ramp, right?
Oh, no, not anymore.
You don't work for Ramp anymore. Okay.
I got to update my LinkedIn.
Okay, you got to update the LinkedIn. But tell me a little bit about that decision to come out here. And you already alluded to the fact that you kind of manifested it. So I'm curious what that looked like.
Yeah, so, I mean, I had never left Baltimore my entire life. And so I always knew that I wanted to experience living somewhere else. And for the longest time, I thought that city was going to be New York. When I was living in Baltimore, I was there probably once a month, if not more sometimes. And so it was always New York for me. And then, you know, I guess probably around the new year, it was like literally like my resolution last year. I was like, I need to just rip the Band-Aid and do it, because every time I say I'm going to do it, I make an excuse as to why staying here is, you know, easier, more comfortable, makes more sense, whatever. I was like, I'm doing it. I don't care how uncomfortable it's going to make me. I don't care what unknowns are in front of me. I'm going to do it. And, you know, I think Andrew, he's never going to leave Chicago, but he at the same time was like, I'm down to do, you know, a short stint somewhere. He had already done it with Greg through, you know, there's some companies that do pre-furnished apartments that you can do. So it was perfect. The timing aligned. I was like, I'm down to do it with you because I know I want to move. And I knew if I moved to New York, I'm like, I already know what living there is going to be like because I go there all the time.
Sure.
But LA is a huge move. It's across the country. So I was like, before I do rip the Band-Aid that hard, I want to test it out first. So that's when we started having the discussions. Oh, should we do like a new girl situation?
Yeah.
And it's all of us. And in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, well, that's going to eliminate any personal pursuits. But I'm like, you know what? I'm down. It could be fun. And then, you know, we had the conversation, well, like, let's keep it professional. And at that point, we were friends. We just met. That obviously didn't work out. Susie got her own spot. And then Andrew and I moved out here temporarily in like March through May. And I was like, you know what? I can see myself out here. So let's do it. So around May, middle of May, I started looking for places, found my spot, fell in love with it, and was like, I'm doing it. So I signed the lease in June, had to go back home to move all my stuff out. So I had to sign my lease pretty much on the spot, and it was just vacant for a month. I was back home in Baltimore for like that last month, or for the entire month of June almost, moving my stuff out, and then came back here permanently in July.
Okay. And Susie, you had already been here?
I came out in, I think, February. So I did a short-term lease during the time that I was being considered for Bachelorette. Yep. And that's why I did that. I was like, I'm not going to get a place if I'm going to be the Bachelorette. So I just was doing like a really short-term stay somewhere, also testing the waters. And then I went back home. I had like 3 weddings on the East Coast to finish up. And then I came back out in May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you guys, interesting. You're here at the same time. You get hired for a little video stuff.
Yeah.
When you land in LA, like right now, Justin, what are you doing professionally?
A little bit of everything. It's crazy. You know, the old saying, you know, if you jump the proverbial net tends to fall. And so when I came out here, when I was all through that temporary stint, I was back in corporate, and I was waking up at like, I was still working East Coast hours. So I was up at like 5 a.m. and it was just, you know, it was a startup. So I'm thinking like 2 or 3 o'clock rolls around my time. I'm like, I'm good. But it was like, I was pretty much working from sun up to sundown. It was insane. But being out here in that short stint, I just saw how much opportunity there was. And so to answer your question, it got to a point where I've always been kind of like a left brain, right brain thinker, right? Yeah. Where the artistic side is where my passion lies. The finance side, I was like, I enjoy it, and I kind of taught myself, or like forced myself to be good at it, you know, because I'm like, this is my livelihood. But it's not what I wake up every day passionate about. And so once I started pursuing the creative stuff more heavily, the opportunities started coming. And so right now I'm doing the social media stuff, I'm doing art stuff, and I'm also, I started my own business that I'm preparing to launch in the next couple of months, hopefully. It's in the spirits industry. So I've been putting all my time and energy into that.
Can I guess it has something to do with espresso martinis?
You know, that's a great guess. I don't know what led you to that conclusion, but yeah.
Okay, so full content creator, and then you also have a business coming.
Yeah.
Within the full content creator world, if you just take, because you've had a big 6 months, I feel like you've just been everywhere.
Yeah.
Your content, by the way, together as friends and in a relationship. It's unbelievable. You guys are killing it.
Yeah.
Can you make more doing what you're doing now than what you're doing at like T Row or some of the bigger corporate world jobs?
Yeah. And I wouldn't, just knowing me, everyone's different, but for better or for worse, like I am kind of money driven.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
admittedly.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wouldn't put myself in a position unless I knew that, you know, I could be better off. And you know, it's one of those things where, going back to my T-Row days, like I've always been a long-term investor, right? So I don't look at social media as just like a forever thing, right? Because sure, there's some people where there's a ton of longevity to it, but my whole thing was I'm going to do it now and I'm going to, you know, enjoy it and hopefully do it right. But it's with the idea of like, how can I use this to then launch something bigger that it does have longevity? Hence, you know, me coming up with this business.
Company.
Yeah. So it's something I enjoy doing, but by no means am I looking, I don't know any like 60-year-old content creator. You know what I mean? It's like something that I'm doing now to launch something bigger.
I'll tell you this though, I know a couple 60.
Do you?
I know a couple 70. I know a couple 8-year-old content creators. And like it's still there. They still crush it.
Yeah.
And like I think if you find your way,
Oh, it's possible.
the platforms will change. Like all
Sure.
that stuff will move, but
Sure.
you could have a ton of success with it. It's
Yeah.
so cool to hear the corporate grind into the creator grind and knowing that I'm sure you're happier, but also you can make a lot more money doing what you're doing.
I'm so much happier because, you know, and I think there's somewhat of a misperception, I guess. Like, although it's like I feel like I'm grinding like just as hard as I was in corporate.
I work 3 times harder.
Yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
I'm just like snapping a picture and posting and just making a bunch of money. Right? Like I'm like both of us. Like we work, we plan, it's a grind. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where I got a sniff of that coming out here, right? And then it's like, okay, I'm comfortable doing this full time because that was when I was trying to juggle both worlds.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can only imagine what it could be like if I step away and I can focus all my time and energy, not only on the content creation, but my business that like I'm doing for me and not for somebody else. And, you know, super blessed and fortunate and knock on wood that has all worked out. So.
And Susie, for you, I mean, it's interesting because we talked a little bit, being from Bachelor Nation, you get off the show, you get your following, you got to be entrepreneurial. Like you got to grind because it's likely maybe you'll get called back for a Paradise and maybe you got a shot at being leave. It's likely you're not going to end back up on ABC cameras,
Right.
and you're not going to get a check from them again. So you got to make it work. I feel like you've done an amazing job at making it work since day one. Right now, full-time content creator. Are you still doing all the video and photography work too?
So up until like the last 2 months, yes, I did do like 6 or 7 weddings in LA. So I had a few in Virginia to finish up. I did 6 or 7 in LA. So much smaller year weddings.
Okay.
And then I just realized I got to the point where I couldn't manage both. Like I was slipping on both sides of things where I wasn't really succeeding at either. I felt I wasn't like nailing it as a wedding videographer anymore.
Okay.
And I wasn't growing in that anymore. And I was kind of starting to dread some of my gigs. And then I felt like I wasn't putting everything I could into content creation. So I've stopped accepting bookings. I still have a few more in the coming year to pursue, and they're exciting ones. They're travel ones. So like, I'm excited for those, but, I'm taking a step back from wedding videography, pivoting. I still want to do photography, videography. I do see a career for myself in photography, videography, but I think I want to step away from weddings. They're such long days. They're exhausting. And it's the same thing over and over again. So I think I want to kind of like lean into my creativity and maybe do something a little different. Still trying to figure that side out.
Yeah.
But right now, mostly relying on content creation in those avenues. and being hopeful. Like I'm trying to like sharpen my skills with other things too. I would love to like host a YouTube show or host another show. You know what I mean? Like I think all those opportunities are appealing to me, and I'm just trying to figure out my footing.
Okay, at the height of, let's say, that marketing job in pharmaceuticals, that range is 60 to 80. We got the 80K. You're making the $800 a night doing essentially appearances as a bartender. Are in your content world right now? Are you making significantly more than that?
Yes.
Are you making to a point that you just like never in your life imagined because money's never been like your pursuit?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, yeah, I would say so.
Financial conversations always make people feel awkward.
I mean, I feel like, I guess my mentality on it is like, not that I never could have imagined. I think it's that wording. Because I'm like, I've always known. I'm like,
you're like, it's my book, bitch.
It's in my book. I'm like, that's the ending. Like, I'm a rich billionaire with like, you know, that's the ending. So it's not that I've never pictured myself like having major financial success or like financial freedom. Like I feel like I've always tried to be smart with the way I use my money.
Yeah.
But I to be honest, I didn't know how much money was in content creation.
It's crazy.
So like I thought coming off the show, I did think like, yeah, I could make money off this. I kind of thought, oh, maybe I'll make like $100,000 coming off the show like the first year. Like after I realized everything, I was like, I feel like, you know, that would be awesome if I could make $100,000 doing content creation, but you can make more than that.
Yeah.
And I have made more than that.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I think to me, to go from being in like the range that I was in and working and hustling and being an entrepreneur, but also like having to show up and serve tables like hush puppies and beer, like, you know, I mean, I feel like it is interesting to go from that to something that I truly love and I truly am passionate about and be able to make more money doing it. So it is cool and eye-opening, but it's not that I didn't see it coming.
That's right. You knew it was in your book. Let's go. All right. Now here's like the full circle moment. We're here, everybody. So you got the independent success that each of you have had. You've had both wild directions. Content creative and just creative work in general is both in your blood. You now are a couple. Being a couple in this world is significant. Like maybe the theme of this world could be like this episode could be like the power of one. So when you think about now, a lot of people though in this space, they operate in one of two ways. I think I can name off a bunch of couples. I won't, but you can see what they do. They either operate independently and just continue to do their own thing, or they like use their power as one to create like a whole empire. Where do you guys see from here the trajectory? Where do you go? Because even like a lot of the content you did when you were in the friends stage was together. Like, what does the business plan look like?
We got to figure that out.
we honestly haven't talked about that. You know, up to this point, we've just both like making content with each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently where brands would reach out and be like, you know, we never sat down like, hey, we could make a killing doing this. Like that was never the thought or intent or whatever. And not, like I said, not until recently brands started reaching out and they're like, we like the both of you together.
Yeah.
And even that we've never been like, let's keep doing, you know, it's just like, let's keep making content and if people like it, great. But more so it's like, cause we enjoy it and we think we're funny. You know what I mean? So we really haven't had that conversation. Yeah.
And to be honest, I think the first brand that approached us, which by the time this airs, it'll be out, I'm sure, or coming up. Oh no, it already did it. Yeah. No, that's silly. Sweethearts, which is like a Valentine's Day candy, and they have a situationship box. And we took a call with them. And to be honest, I was just so excited that they loved our skits because I think skits can be you're putting yourself out there. They could flop. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to, you know, write a little comedy and like make fun. You're going to have to put your acting skills to the test. Like it's vulnerable. And so sometimes you put stuff out there and you're like, oh, I don't know how this is going to be cringy. Go. Is it going to be funny? Cringy. And so they loved our skits and they were just like, we just think you're so funny and we enjoy watching it. It's entertaining. And to me, as somebody that like enjoys creating, writing, directing, producing, I was like, that is like the biggest compliment that a brand would like. Not just me looking hot in a swimsuit or the way my hair looks or like my makeup. It's like they liked something from in here that we put out into the world which to me was like the biggest compliment and so exciting.
I think right there you nailed it, especially from the Bachelor world. When you've done that and people are recognizing something other than you were on The Bachelor, that's when you know you're in the right lane. That's how you know you're making it. And I think anybody from the show that's been able to grind and make a career out of this, they've done exactly that. You can't be known as the person from the show. You have to be known for what you do after the show and your skits, and then also your video editing and the creative. It's brilliant. Do you actually write your stuff out before? Like, do you actually write it out? So you write it out, act it out, produce it, post edit it, and you do it all you're together.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Maybe there's a production company
it's
here.
We've talked about it.
I thought you haven't talked about
Well,
it.
no, we talked about we haven't talked about like let's do more brand deals.
Yeah.
We talked about like how can we use our talents
what I'm saying.
to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
And-
Yeah, we just had the conversation this morning
We
in
talked
my
about,
kitchen.
because Justin is like I can run a camera and I know how to run a camera and I know how to do a lot of technical skills, but I don't think I'm actually that artistic. I think I'm a great writer. That was like my best subject growing up. And I took so many like writing, like script classes in college. Like I love that. I love concepts and emotion and all that stuff. But Justin has a vision. Like I am so not detail oriented, but Justin is like truly a creative director. Like even when we do shoots, like the way he does stuff, I'm like, you have such a skill. Like before we ever started dating, we said this, we were like, we should create like a package, not even to put us in it, but to create stuff for brands for their social media, because he's so good at the creative directing. And I think that I can run the camera and I've got like some of the technical skills and the writing and stuff like that, where we've talked about that before. And we work well together in those scenarios.
Game on. I think you guys are going to create something absolutely amazing. That's my guess. My question is though, to do that, you might have to be under one roof. Are you guys talking about moving in, or is that not on the topic yet?
I think I'm too messy.
Honestly, there's like new studies out now that say like sleeping in separate rooms is like created like healthy long lasting. Maybe that's the answer. Live in two different spots.
Yeah, right now we're totally separate spots.
I literally was just talking about this the other day. It feels like we already live together. Like we're at each other's place all the time.
Yeah.
But I feel I would definitely be the difficult one to live with. I'm pretty OCD about
actually.
Like that's why he's great at creative directing. He's very
you're
particular.
Very meticulous.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you're messy. Oh, that.
And I'm like, I've tried to get better about it.
Yeah.
I have my lovely mother to thank for it. But actually, both my parents are very neat.
Yeah.
But
you're next level.
I mean, I grew up like I was doing chores, cleaning bathrooms like every Saturday. My dad has always been like everything on his desk is like organized. Like when I was at T-Row, I'd have people come in and be like, "You're a serial killer." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, everything is literally perfectly squared. Like like a Post-it note wouldn't be off. But that like even every time we leave my house, like I'm doing my decor pillows and like putting the blank. Like I just love my place to look aesthetically pleasing and just clean, and it's just like how I've always been.
Wow.
And I try to respect it. Like I notice it and I'm like, I'm gonna fluff the pillows before I leave the room. Like I definitely try to be respectful, but naturally in general I think that I am way more about like everything in life. I'm pretty like it's cool, like whatever.
I very, and everyone's like there's some beauty in that, because like I wish I was more like that to some degree, but there's also times where like I very rarely lose anything.
Yeah.
And Susie would be like she's like, where's that SD card? I'm like, you just had it.
Yeah.
If my head wasn't attached, Susie would be gone.
But it's like we're kind of adapting to like
idea.
each other. So like if we go in a parking garage, I'm like, let me get the parking ticket and I'll hold on to it.
This
Like,
is good.
You know what
Learn
I mean?
these behaviors before you move in.
Yeah.
Move in.
So we work well together. We
I
really
love
do.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, last part about this interview. Second book I have coming out is called Talk Money to Me. The concept is that like we're really not taught love and money. Like we've learned so much now about love, and we're starting to learn about money, but like having financial transparent conversations is challenging, especially in relationships. So I'll keep it broad with you guys. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but from a financial standpoint, like do you guys talk openly about this? Is it something that is not your forte, something to work on? Like when deals come in, do you talk about the dollars? Where do you guys stand?
Honestly,
with
we do.
We're pretty
And
open.
I'm like, it has been the best transition, because we would kind of, we didn't, not as in depth, but I feel like the year-long friendship and just like trust and everything that we built in that time, it just made for such a seamless and easy transition into more than friends, because we were working together before. We were having discussions about our personal whatever. And so now it's just like, like I try to be Susie's biggest supporter, and vice versa. Like she supports me so much. It's like we are genuinely, which I can't speak for a lot of couples, but like we are genuinely happy when the other person succeeds and like gets an opportunity, and it's just like, dude, how much is that one for? Like that's sick. Like I'm so happy for it. So it's not like a comparison thing, or it's just like, oh, like up your worth, like you're worth more, like you know what I mean? Like should you do that? Like we just have conversations like, hey, do you think I should take this one, or like we have those open conversations.
And I feel like we're both so different that we're not in competition with each other either, which not that I think that would matter anyways, but I think you've really like niched yourself into a very cool space, and I'm still trying to figure out my niche. I think probably because I'm also as a person all over the place, but I think that we just have different opportunities, and if I can get Justin paid on an opportunity that I'm invited to, I'm gonna do it. And same with you for me. Like we've supported each other so much.
After we've started to see more brands like want both of us. So like you just said, like if a brand reaches out, I'm like, hey, how can we kind of parlay this and this makes sense for Susie to be in it? And it's just like,
we've been pretty open about that. And as far as like personal finances, like I think moving to LA was such an expensive move for both of us that we have been open about like our rent or even like my equipment that I'm investing in and all these things. And it's like, we've definitely had some discussions about those things. And I think it's been good because it kind of helps you gauge like, is, you know, the industry standard and like what people are making. Like, I think it's kind of better to have those open conversations because then, you know, like, oh, so that was a real low ball, or, oh, that was a great one or whatever. So it's good to be open, and we've been really open about everything. And I think it's just made things, very positive and healthy.
The basis of what you guys have done, I think, is the friendship, to the open conversation, to working as one, to supporting one. It's huge in a space that's like really hard to do that. Let's end with a little bit of a rapid fire. It's a fun little money game. You guys ready for this?
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with you, Justin. Your financial green flag, and Susie, you're next. What is Justin's one financial green flag?
What's a financial, like for myself or to see in somebody else? For
you, like what's your, you know, like they say, like what's your green flag? Like what is something that's like really good about Justin's financial situation, bearing your financial green
He got money.
I'm caked up.
Well, I mean, and I'm fortunate that I had the investment background, but I invest. So I think
good.
You probably don't want a long-winded answer, but I think it's something like, had I not been in that industry, you know, I've got friends, relatives, whatever, they just, you know, they could be making good money, but just like, dude, like you got to invest it. You can't just like have it sitting in a savings account, like have your money work for you. And some people, you know, not to their fault, they don't know what to invest in, what sectors to look for, what to, you know, whatever. But like, fortunately, that was that's how I made a living. So I think my green flag is just investing.
Good investor's a good one. Giving Mark Colster a plug here. We're in his house here. We just had a conversation about the fact people are usually really good at just making money or just investing. And if you have the combo of both, that's huge. So that's a green flag. If you have crypto questions, go over to Mark Colster. Check him out on Twitter. Susie, your green flag.
I like to ball on a budget.
Okay, so you're good. Yeah,
I like to make deals. Like I think financially, I like to play it safe. Like it's probably not a good thing that it's probably fear-based, but I always want to be sure that I'm like comfortable and like I'm good. So I try to make things work, make my money go a long way.
Can I give her a shout out for this as well? So we are so similar in so many ways. And like, this is a very appreciated trait about Susie. Like, she's so easygoing. It's like we both, don't get me wrong, we like nice things and we like to wine and dine and all that stuff, but it may seem so minuscule, but we were planning New Year's Eve, right? And it's like, okay, we're ripping, like, because we went to the Ravens-Dolphins game. It's like, we're ripping from here, and then we got to take a train, and like, but I want you to get the bar experience in Baltimore and like meet my friends and this and that. And I'm like, I'm trying to make dinner, like these really nice dinner reservations. She's like, you know what? Like, we could save time and money, and we could just get ready at the hotel and like Uber eat some food. I'm like,
you're like, well,
I'm like,
you.
what?
Like,
what's your ring size? You know, like even last night, it's like, you know, I love cooking, but it's like, I'm also like, can be heavily convinced to Uber Eats or just go out. Yeah. And she's like, you know what? Let's be healthy and like make dinner. It's so she's very like just fruit. Like,
I love
like,
that.
easy. And
There's a lot of good vibes going here, personally and with the financial
My
talk.
ring
All right.
size is a 5.
It's a 5.
Noted.
Noted. Oh, God. If you're a ring company out there, these are two great creators. Let's get them
Neil
paid.
Lane is salivating at the mouth.
Neil Lane, step your game up because there will be other bidders here, okay? All right, financial green flag, go.
A green flag? Wait.
Oh, wait, no,
that was mine,
sorry.
that was mine.
Sorry.
Oh,
Edit
yeah.
that. Financial red flag, go. One financial red flag.
I probably could use a lesson on investing, so I'll be
Well,
talking to you later about that.
Sounds like you got the guy to do it.
Yeah, I got the guy to
Justin.
help me.
I don't know if you have one,
Yeah.
but you got to dig one. Dig deep. Financial red flag.
Oh, I know. I have one for sure.
Let's hear it.
I have expensive taste.
He's bougie.
Okay,
I'm
so
bougie as hell.
This is the great third question of the
Oof.
rapid fire. Was one thing that you'll spend money on that no matter what your financial situation is, you'll continue to spend money on? What is it?
My home decor.
Wow, gee, you're an interesting guy.
Yeah, dude.
The most interesting man in America. OCD
Yeah.
decor.
Yeah.
Like, where are you shopping?
Oh man.
Everywhere.
All over. All over.
Everywhere. Where isn't he
I mean,
shopping?
my single Saturdays were truly just going out, hitting store to store to store, online. I enjoy
Wow.
decor shopping.
It's like everything in life I can't do, I don't want to do, but I wish I did
Yeah,
want to
well,
and wish I could.
yeah, it's
Damn.
it's-
Maybe you need to like create a blog or something.
Oh, he would be so good at that. I think
Oh my
so
God,
many
or
things.
for single men. Like, I don't know where to go. Like, I don't know where to start.
You might be onto something.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Susie, what, oh no, we already did that. Wasn't one thing that you spend too much money on. Maybe this doesn't work for you, but no matter what, you're going to continue to spend this money on this situation.
I actually think it's people. It's other people. Like, I
Okay.
feel like I will, like, not even think
That's
twice,
good.
and I'll be like, okay, there's 10 people here. We're in Santa Monica. I'm like, 10 shots of your best tequila. Let's go. Like, I
love
do not
that.
care. And I'm
the
just,
same way.
in that sense, I'm like, I'll spend money on
I'm not
people.
trying to like continue to answer for you, but I'm just trying to piggyback. That is like everything. It's so right because even when we were friends, I'd be so frustrated because we'll go somewhere and Susie's like, "Oh, I'll buy the 6 tickets to Disneyland. You guys just pay me back later." And I'm like, "Yo, what's your Venmo?" And I'm like, "Have you asked the people for them?" Like, she's like, "Ah." I'm like, "Dude, the tickets are expensive." I'm like, "Get your money."
Get your money.
You know what I mean?
I'm like you too.
I
too.
appreciate the
get
person
that.
that's always willing to like put the, everyone gets
Yeah.
alligator arms, but I'm like, "Get your money."
Yeah. I don't know. I just believe it comes back to you. And you
Those tickets
also
are expensive.
absolutely. But you also notice, like, I notice the people that, like, don't.
Yeah.
It's a learning lesson.
It
there.
is. And it's like,
It's a cheap learning
I can learn that lesson, but
actually.
also
Yeah.
send the
Send
request.
the
For
request.
sure.
Now
Yeah,
I know.
noted, but I'm still send the request.
that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I'm just like such a believer in like
Yeah.
it'll find its way back to me and them. I'm like
Oh, she's
karma's
part of your
real.
book.
Karma's
All right. A
real.
lot of good vibes going here. Let's wrap with this one. A check that you got, let's say recently, maybe last couple of years, a check that just, it doesn't even have to be the most amount of money. Could be if you want it. But like a check that you're just like, yes, either from where it came from or when it came in. It could be a dollar amount. It could be the meaning behind it. Like a good moment with a check that came in. Last one we got.
I kind of had back-to-back ones that were important to me. One was from Jack Daniels, and then the other was through Hilton. They had me out there during Art Basel Week, and so those were two really big and important ones to me because one, I have worked hard to kind of carve my own niche in like the spirits industry, and you know, it wasn't like your typical like, oh, make a cocktail at home. Like they flew me out to Lynchburg, Tennessee, where the distillery is, and you know, I was one of like 5 creators, and you know, it took us on like a 3-day tour of the distillery, and we learned the history and the taste. It was just like a very immersive, selective, unique experience that I was getting like paid well for. So I was like, wow, this is okay. Like you said, they're noticing me for something beyond just being on this show.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And then Art Basel, obviously I'm an artist. So to like, again, you know, despite the check size, like to get paid to be somewhere where I was going to Art Basel the past couple of years anyway. So I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd say those were my 2.
Let me ask, combined, I got to drill down. Money Mafia will yell at me if I don't. Combined over 10K?
Oh yeah.
Let's go. You saw the oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I always got to press for a number. If I don't, then they yell at me. and I keep it high level if you don't want to answer directly all of it. All right, Susie, give me
Okay.
one.
I know I mentioned it, but I think similarly, it was like being recognized. The Sweethearts thing, it wasn't the price amount. It wasn't a crazy number. It certainly wasn't my biggest brand deal or our biggest brand deal at all. But it was a moment where you realized, like you said, you're not being recognized just from being on the show. You're being recognized for something you're putting out into the world, which has kind of been these skits and like leaning into comedy. And so it just felt like recognition of like, you're going in the right direction. You're being recognized for things that you value in yourself, which is like creativity and comedy and, being able to draw people into a story. That just felt, to me, it just felt really flattering. And if I can make money, make a living doing that kind of work, I think I would be really happy. So that check to me meant a lot, even if it wasn't like the biggest financial.
And your
one.
situationship is now a relationship.
That's
what-
right.
What were the
Thank you,
deliverables
sweetheart.
on
Just
those?
It was just a reel.
Just a reel. Did you have to do a reel too?
No, so they gave the option. So they reached out to Susie and they were like, "We love your stuff with Justin," and I had the option to either like get paid to just be featured in it, and she just posted to her page, the option to not be in it at all, or the option to collab post with her.
Okay. Well, I gotta be hard on you. I was hard on him.
Yeah.
Over 10K.
Yeah. So it started out less than 10K, and then they came back for more like usage,
Yeah.
and it's like right at 10K.
Let's go. You
Yeah.
guys are cleaning up. You're doing it together. You think about where you guys have been to where you are now, your whole story, Baltimore, Virginia, the show, relationships failing, working, and then finding each other, all because you hired Susie for a
How
little
crazy.
That is
videography work. I love that it started with an ask from a professional
It's
perspective.
nuts.
Me too, actually.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just telling you, I'm in the room, guys. You can watch it on YouTube. I feel great energy.
Aw.
I have a feeling like in a couple years, I'm going to have you guys back because something big's going to happen here.
Ooh,
I mean,
I like that.
I think relationship wise,
Yeah.
I mean, you already got the ring size. I'm talking like, I think you guys are going to build something that's going to be pretty cool.
I appreciate
Yeah.
Thanks. I
Because your
hope
skill
so.
sets
I
are
hope, yeah.
different,
Yeah.
but they're unique, you
Yeah.
know? So there's something there. All right, we got to
Thank
end with a
you.
trading secret. So it's a trading secret. It could be anything from your career track, your financial management that you can't get in a textbook, can't learn on a TikTok tutorial or YouTube or from a professor, only from your career experience and navigation. So I need a trading secret from each of you guys. Who wants to start?
Do you have one ready to go?
I mean, I can kind of spitball one.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Justin, let's start with you.
I would say that no one's, and this may be cliche, but no one's path is going to be identical, nor does it need to be linear. For a long time, like I said, I thought that just because what I was surrounded by with my parents, and I did go to college and have corporate as well, but like there's more than one way to skin a cat. Sorry, Pete, like I don't mean anything literal by that, but you know what I mean? Like not everyone's path has to be linear. And so find something that you thoroughly enjoy doing, and if you are money motivated, find a way to monetize it. It's not something that's going to come easy or happen overnight, but if you do something consistently and you do something to your utmost ability, it will happen for you.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's cool to hear from an artist that you're saying like make life a mosaic, right?
Yeah.
Like stop with the blueprint.
Yeah.
And then I also think what's interesting is like when things came together for you for your career, like also everything else fell into place.
And it's kind of to piggyback, like if you are in a situation where you're doing something where you're like, okay, this isn't what I want my end all to be all, potentially to be, think about what you are naturally talented at, what you love doing, and find ways to incorporate that into your daily life and what you're doing. So even when I was working in finance, like I was like, I need to be creative, right? And so I was winning presentation competitions because I was thinking creatively, writing creatively. I was going out doing sip and paint nights with my advisors and their wives. I was thinking of ways that I could still find ways that I was being fulfilled while like getting the check. And eventually, got to the point where like, okay, I can take that leap and do this full time. So just hone in on what you love doing and know that you don't have to have just like a linear path to be successful.
I love it. That is a hell of a trading secret. All right,
That
Susie,
is
it's
good.
a tough act to follow right
That's
there.
really hard to follow.
But Susie, give us your trading secret.
Okay, so I have to be honest. When you invited us on, I really thought, I was like, I don't really know what I can offer to your audience other than like, don't do what I did in a lot of ways, like starting a business and like just being so excited. That's just like my nature to be like, I can do anything, like anything I put my mind to, I can make it work. But like, I had no business background. I had no like accounting understanding. Like I didn't know anybody that had a business to mentor me. Like I just jumped in, and I think I made a lot of mistakes. But like my trading secret or my advice to somebody that wants to start their own business is like, one, you 1000% can do it no matter what your like background is, but get your shit together. If you can say that. Like I think I would have saved myself a lot of like fear, and like I think I do have anxiety about a lot of like money things just because I don't know that much about it. And so my first year, like I was using business, like spending business expenses out of my personal account. And I didn't even have a business account until 6 months into making money with my business. And it's like, if I had just like sat down, whether it is like doing more research up front or taking a business class, like a entrepreneurial class at a local community college, like there's so many things that you could do just to like prepare yourself before jumping in. And I wish I had done that just to save myself the anxiety. Everything has been fine. I've been able to manage everything. I save a lot of money and like try to be smart. But like my suggestion to somebody is like, don't let not knowing something stop you from starting, but just get your shit together and like, just, you know, do a little research before and have a good like CPA and like have somebody that just can walk you through the financial steps behind the scenes, because you can make a lot of money, you know, working for yourself and have a really happy, joyous life, which has been my goal. But sometimes there's anxiety that comes with starting your own business. So
yeah, get your shit together.
Get your shit together.
I like that trading secret, and I like the other part of that too, which is like, if you want to do something, don't let the intimidation of lack of knowledge or education or others like stop you. Give it a shot, dive in. And even if you don't have your business account set up for 6 months or you screw up your expenses, guess what? You're going to figure it out. And it's better trying to figure it out than not starting anything and being 8 steps behind. I also think a trading secret I learned from you today is like, find the light. I think like that's a big, very applicable in business. Is like, even like when you were down and out, you had to give the $2,500 back. You didn't know what's going on. You're like, you found whatever it is. I think people need to hold on to, whether it's like a spirit or a religion or just the confidence in themselves, being like, this is my book. I know it's going to work out. Because I don't do that. And that's a good one. Like, find the light in times where it's dark, because someone's got to stay optimistic, and that changes your behavior and your confidence and everything else.
Absolutely. And also, like, every book I've ever read about like the top CEOs, the people who are the best in everything, it's like they have been so much lower than me. They've been so much more in the negative than me. Like, nobody starts and is just like at the top. You have to fail a lot to like figure it out. And if you don't fail, like, you're not going to go anywhere. That's the biggest thing that I think I've learned through doing all this, is like the top of the top, they've been so low. I
just said last episode on this podcast, we've had sharks from Shark Tank, actors, A-Rod, Hall of Famers. We've had billionaires on this podcast. One common denominator: every person that's come on a mic in some capacity has fucked up. Some capacity has hit rock bottom, got fired or something. The big common denominator with every guest is that they find a way to pivot and use that rock bottom as a trampoline to the next thing, right? Where a lot of people, I think, get stuck in it and just can't wheel their way out. So, well, Justin and Susie, as a couple, thank you guys. So I kept you longer than I expected, but I could have talked to you all day. Thank you guys for trading your secrets, being on Trading Secrets. I'm so excited for what you have coming. Where can everyone find what you have coming? We'll start with you, Justin. Go to Susie.
Like my social media.
Instagram
is at Justin Glaze, and TikTok is at Justin_Glaze.
Okay, and for this new venture, when it comes out, will people just find it on your channels?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Be prepared for that. We'll be watching. Susie.
So for me, you can find me on Instagram, Susie C. Evans. My YouTube, which I've been doing a lot more on, it's Susie Was Like, and that's kind of all my other socials as well. So that's my TikTok. My blog is susiewasLike.com, and that's where you can find me and follow along.
Go give them a follow. I said this on the Jason Tells All episode. We went over insights for the last 90 days. 4 million people interacted with my account and didn't follow.
Crazy.
Guys,
That's nuts.
give us a follow. Go give Justin a follow. Go give Susie a follow. And thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Trading Secrets. I can't wait to have you guys back in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being on.